Hey, it's Lauren. Thank you so much for listening to the Afterlight. Enjoy the episode. This episode has been brought to you by the Raw Spirit Team. Building a business can be overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. We teach small and medium-sized businesses strategies for building a profitable, successful, stress-free business and life. Because guess what? You are more than your business. Through one-on-one training, online courses, and monthly guest experts, the Spirit Team is built on the principle of building each other up in business and in spirit. Try it for 14 days for free. Just head to rawconsulting.com and check out the Raw Spirit Team. I'm Lauren and welcome to the Afterlight. My guest today is Kiandra Vadas, who is a psychic medium and spiritual mentor who has a passion for teaching and guiding others. Kiandra went through the deepest part of her spiritual awakening at around 24, and it was during this time she discovered just how sensitive and intuitive she is. She quickly saw herself embracing all aspects of herself and came to understand that she was in fact an empath. Kiandra grew up as a psychic medium, becoming well-known and respected for her readings and intuitive guidance. And Kiandra found herself teaching both spiritual growth and personal growth to people who came to her. She is joining me to talk about all things empathic. Hi, Kiandra. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's start at the beginning. I mean, we don't have to go way back. Maybe your spiritual journey sort of really kicked off around the age of 24. I kind of alluded to it in your bio, but I do like to kind of find out from my guests when I speak to them initially, sort of how their spiritual journey kind of kicked off. Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, absolutely. It was pretty confusing because I always knew that I was intuitive and had a fascination with cards and crystals and all the woo-woo kind of things growing up.
Yes.
But I never believed that I could be a psychic or even knew what an empath was.
Yeah.
And then it was around 24, I started going through an emotional roller coaster. I was very confused about my journey and who I was, and suddenly everything that I felt just didn't make sense to me anymore. And I just was extremely emotional, and I remember thinking, what is going on with me? And I remember my husband was like, let me help you. Like, what can I do to help you? And I was like, I don't know, because I don't even know myself. And
Right.
I didn't realize at that time, but I was actually in the midst of a massive spiritual awakening. And I didn't realize that spiritual awakenings were not necessarily these happy butterflies, rainbows that you think they're going to be.
No, they're not.
No, definitely not. And so I just knew that there was something more. I started to feel like there had to be more to my life. There had to be more to who I am. And I was really curious about finding myself. And it's true that sometimes pain is the one thing that can, project you forward and actually make you curious as to what is ours. So
Yeah.
I started to read, books and look for different courses. And it was then that I realized at that time there wasn't a lot. There wasn't a lot available at that time. And yeah, it was just a bit confusing, but it really set me on my path to opening and awakening spiritually.
I find that, for my spiritual journey, I think we all sort of have these catalysts that happen where we go, oh, and then like you said, we find information in books or those around us. And then all of a sudden our journey just kind of evolves from there. Were there any books in particular that stood out that kind of kicked off, your awareness that there's this whole other world that maybe you hadn't really known about?
I feel that the biggest one would be A New Earth. by Eckhart Tolle. It just, I feel like it's a book that you have to be ready for. Like it could sit
Yes.
on your shelf for months, and then you just suddenly, look at it and go, okay, I feel like reading this. And it really just changed a lot for me and how I looked at things, and really started to dive into my ego and learning about letting go of, different things that I was attached to. And I feel like that helped me a lot with opening up a lot more. And then I did also, I started to look a lot more into Doreen Virtue, and then that really put me on the path of, psychic readings and intuitive guidance and connecting to the angels. That's a really big part of who I am.
Yeah, I love that. And one thing I will just say is that my spiritual journey's been kind of up and down. And there was a period where I basically took 4 years off of,
Yes.
not even wanting to have, I just went, nope, I can't do, I overwhelmed myself, basically what happened. But
Yes.
during that 4 years, I refound A New Earth and The Power of Now. And I do want to say for our listener at home, what Kiandra said is true, because I had The Power of Now for years, and I tried reading it 3 times and it never worked. And then during my break, I read The Power of Now and then A New Earth, and it changed my whole life. And so yeah, and so I could talk to you about that subject alone forever. I'm so happy that I found a fellow person who understands that.
Yes.
But we will move on. But one thing I will say for our listener at home is that if you are interested in that content, Oprah and Eckhart actually have a podcast called A New Earth. Did you know about this, Kiandra?
I didn't. That's great.
Yes. In 2008, they did a whole series on Skype, on YouTube, where people called in and they went through every single chapter, and real people called in and asked questions, and they dissected every single chapter. So it's like 10 hours of free content, and you can get that wherever it is you get your podcasts. They basically took the whole YouTube show and they put it on a podcast. So if anything that you've said to our listener at home, rings true, you want to check it out. So anyway, thanks for that. And I'll just say too, it's interesting during Virtue's change.
Oh, absolutely. I think that I saw that confused a lot of people. I had a lot of people coming to me, and they were feeling very confused on, whether they should still continue or use her cards or, completely change their path. And my guidance was just to do what intuitively feels right for you.
Yeah.
Everyone is entitled to their own beliefs, and it's not on us to judge. And perhaps that she was supposed to help us in that time, and she's now just moving on to the next stage of people she needs to help from a different community.
Right. I never thought about that. Can you quickly sum up what we're talking about, just in case our listener at home is confused? I didn't really ask that question in a very clear way.
No, that's okay. That's all right. So yeah, with Doreen Virtue, she was very into New Age, her cards and creating books and connecting to the angels. And I'm not sure exactly how long into her journey, but she found her faith. I'm not sure exactly if it's Catholic. I can't remember exactly, or Christianity.
I think
but
Christianity.
Christianity, and she took back all of her learnings and quickly rebutted pretty much everything that she had put out there. So it really confused a lot of people, but I still personally use her cards. I still resonate with everything that I learned, and I just look at it as it's just now her time to teach a community of people who may be needing her guidance through that. So
yeah, well said. One of the things that I associate being empathic with is being in tune with yourself and your own feelings. And you kind of talked about it there a few times when you were mentioning how you know, it still feels right to you. It still connects right to you. When you're talking to your clients, you're really enforcing that if the messages feel right and that still connects with them, to really honor that. So is that what being an empath is? Is that innate feeling, or how would you describe being an empath, or what is empath, you know, being empathic, I guess?
There's actually many different kinds of empaths. A lot of the time, people think being an empath just falls under this one category, but there's actually different subcategories of being an empath. And an intuitive empath is, in fact, one of them. So that is where you lead your life through your intuitive guidance and trusting those gut feelings and, you know, your faith, and really just trust in your path and following what you're feeling at that time. But there's other different kinds of empaths, like an emotional empath. So an emotional empath is somebody who can absorb the emotions of somebody else, that can pick up the emotions of the people that they are around. You have a physical empath who can pick up physical pains in the body, physical illnesses, things like that that are happening to other people around them or to who they're talking to. You've got like an animal empath, who they have like this very strong in tune connection to animals, you know, all sentient beings. Earth empaths, geomantic empaths, like there are actually so many different types. Yeah, so it's and you can be more than one. So for example, like I physically pick up the pains of other people or people I'm talking to, illnesses, emotions. I'm an animal intuitive. Like I pretty much fall under all categories myself, but not everyone will be in tune with animals, but they may be intuitive. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It means that you probably have certain strengths which fall under the banner of empath, and some of them are more developed than others, or you could even develop some of them if you have a predisposition to a certain thing.
Absolutely. And I found the more that I opened up spiritually and started to embrace my you know, myself as an empath and my emotional connection and physical connection, then I became an animal empath. And I'm only recently now becoming more in tune with like plants and nature. And so the more you grow and develop and just embrace who you are as a whole, you may find that you do start to embody those characteristics of those other empaths as well.
It's so interesting. So I always kind of thought that being an empath with just being a really sensitive person who also could pick up on things. So is it possible to just be a very sensitive person but not empathic, or do the two go together?
No, definitely. So you can be like empathetic. So some people may be empathetic to, you know, people's situations and have this, you know, sense of emotional connection to the person of what's going on. But as an empath, you put yourself in that position. You feel what that person is going through. Something that I see a lot with empaths, they tend to, once that situation or person is gone, they'll hold on to it as if it's their own and keep it as if it's their own emotionally or physically. So that's something that an empath definitely has to kind of navigate through as well.
Okay, so that brings me to a question that I have, because I was on a call with somebody the other day on a Zoom call, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, right, my wrist starts hurting. So I'm sitting there and I'm just like rubbing my wrist, and they said, "Oh, does your wrist hurt?" And I said, "Yeah," but it just kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't say that. I just said, "Yeah, it does." And then I went, "Wait a minute. Does your wrist hurt?" And they said, "Yes, it does." And then I thought to myself, well, how is that information useful to me if I'm picking up on that? So I guess that's one of my questions. I have a lot around this subject. So
no, that's great.
Let's start with that. So why is that information useful to me?
It's an interesting question. I feel that, like, for myself, when I'm picking up messages like that or physical pains, I can use it in a way where, with psychic readings, can help guide people or build a sense of connection. But sometimes when it comes to physical pains, it can be hard for people to, work out what is their own and work out what is not. In the sense of like picking up the physical ailments, sometimes naturally as empaths, we absorb what is going on with other people, be it physically or emotionally, to help take away some of the pain of what other people are experiencing. And it's actually not a conscious thing that we are doing. It's just we're natural nurturers, we're natural givers. And so with that, it's this unconscious, natural thing that happens, that we connect into somebody's emotional pain or physical pain, and we start to absorb and connect to, one, build a connection with the person, and then take on some of what they may be experiencing and take the load off almost.
Right. And I have heard stories of, sometimes animals do that. Like if there's a lot of grief, a dog or a cat or whoever, they might get sick. They might take on the grief of their owner. Have you heard of that happening?
Definitely. Sometimes animals will come into our lives specifically for that purpose, that they will be there during a time of hardship or, a lot of emotional challenges. And they definitely absorb what we're going through, and feelings and emotions, and they're natural healers themselves. So absolutely that happens.
So I just have another question then. Maybe I'm hoping our listener at home can relate, because I'm not trying to do a therapy session here or anything with you. But I was hanging out with someone the other day, and all of a sudden my neck started hurting. So I thought to myself, okay, is this what I think it is, right? This has happened before. So when I mentioned, does your neck hurt? They said it did, but it was on the opposite side of where I was feeling it. So I guess I'm kind of curious as to, that was just a coincidence, or can sometimes you tune into somebody's maybe pain and get these signs, but it's not reflecting in yourself the exact way that it reflects in them?
Yeah, definitely. So it may not come through, in the exact specific spot. It could be if you're sitting across and mirroring. It could be that there's a few different reasons why it can happen, but it usually is just that you're given the pain to absorb. Or so, for example, some people may have pain in their back, but you may feel it within your chest or in the heart chakra or in your stomach. It just depends on where you emotionally hold different pain in your body as well, if you are trying to help with the healing aspect of things.
Okay. So you did talk a bit about how one of the reasons why getting this information is to help the person deal with the pain, is to connect to them on some level, is potentially to bring attention to something they've been ignoring or neglecting, let's say. And then you kind of mentioned that, there's opportunities for us to kind of recognize whether or not this belongs to us. So I guess my question is, once you realize, this doesn't belong to me, how do you then let that go? Because I don't necessarily want to be walking around, and I'm sure all empaths can relate, holding on to people's stuff. That would be probably not very healthy or helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It with energy, so everything is energy. Our emotions are energy, the pains we're feeling, everything around us. And what happens is those emotions or those physical pains that we are taking on as empaths, they go somewhere within our body, whether it's the same place or another place. And without releasing it, that energy cannot circulate or move, and it will grow into either an emotional challenge for ourselves, or it can actually manifest into a physical ailment within ourselves. So over time, if you're not cleansing or cutting cords or releasing or bringing back the energy to yourself with love, then it can manifest into something else. So for a lot of empaths, they may find that they are more prone to illnesses, they're more prone to stomach or back issues, or weight gain that they just can't shift, because that the emotions or physical pains they're picking up from other people manifest into physical, which then is the weight we hold in our body. So no matter what you're doing, sometimes it won't budge, it won't shift. So it is imperative that you actually do cleanses and cord cuttings and things like that to shift the energy that is stuck within the body.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know that you run the Empath School. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. I do want to talk to you a little bit about, the cleansing process that maybe you do, or what you might recommend to people who are listening. I guess I wanted to just go back to the questions that I was asking you before, just to clarify one more thing, and then we'll move along, which is essentially, if I'm hanging out with somebody and I ask them, does your neck hurt? And they tell me yes, then I guess it's a pretty clear indication to me that that's not my stuff. Yes. But is it possible to figure out whether or not something belongs to you without inquiring about people around you? And also, could you be picking up on stuff from someone, even if they're not in the same vicinity and are simply connected to you through love, like family? I'm under the impression there's a lot of people who are connected to family and they don't necessarily have the same boundaries in place.
Yeah, so a little technique that I use is I just simply ask. So everything is about intention. Everything with life, with spirituality is intention. And so I just put the intention out there and I ask, if this is not my own, please take it away. If this is not my own, can you please take it away? And I'll just be aware of the spot or the pain or the emotion, anxiety, whatever it is you're feeling. And generally within a matter of 30 seconds, it will dissipate or go away. And if it sticks around, you can ask again, if this is not my own, please take it away. And if it sticks, it is something that your body is trying to tell you, or your own emotions. But it pretty much works every single time that I do it. And it's something that I teach in my workshop and classes, and it seems to work for everyone else as well. So it's definitely a technique you can do. And then when it comes to could you be picking up those signs if it's not necessarily someone in the room or someone around you, you absolutely could be picking up things going on with a loved one or a best friend, anybody that you are emotionally attached to. And how that happens is we have something called an ethereal cord or an etheric cord. And it's pretty much like an umbilical cord. It's made of energy. And every single day we are attaching these cords to different people or situations just through intention or conversations. But as we grow, we have our cords, they start to thicken. So the people who we have a lot of interactions with or a stronger bond with, we have these thicker, bigger energy cords attached to, and we send our thoughts and energy and pains and emotions back and forth through these cords. And that is actually how you are picking up on what is going on with people, even if they're not in your aura or around you. So this is why you may hear about cord cutting your cord, cleansing your
Archangel
cord.
Michael, baby.
Yes, absolutely. He's the best to do that with. But that's why people talk about cutting cords or cleansing cords, because it's important that even with your loved ones, you're keeping those channels through that cord clear, so you're not as well sending, your emotional challenges or things going on to the people you love.
Yeah, that's true. It goes both ways, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk a bit more about cleansing now, because, those of us and those, people listening to this podcast probably are interested in spirituality, you would think. Otherwise, glad to have you along, but not sure what you're doing here. You might be lost. But, cutting cords and cleansing and these sort of things could be familiar terms, even if it's not something that people are necessarily doing. So can we talk a bit about the importance of that? I mean, we have physical showers every day, most of us. So is it just as important, if not more so?
Definitely. I use the term spiritual hygiene, and
That's
we
good.
take care of our physical hygiene, as you said, by showering and brushing teeth, and taking care of our physical hygiene. And it's just as important to get into the same habits of your energy hygiene and
Yeah.
cleansing, or just visualizations, meditations. Again, just intention is enough. As long as that intention is strong enough, then absolutely getting into
Mm.
that routine of doing these things is really important.
I think sometimes, when you were talking there, I heard somebody and they put up an objection, and they're like, yeah, but how do you know how to do it? So, when it comes back to what you were saying with your intention, if you are taking the time, to have those deep cleansing breaths and you're wanting all, is that enough if the intention is strong? Or how do you determine if an intention is strong or not, I guess?
You will feel it within your body. You will feel it within your body, your mind. You know if something feels off in yourself, or if you're feeling, anxious thoughts, or extra tired, or
Mm.
obsessively thinking about things. There's a lot of different signs of needing a big spiritual release or cleanse. And generally it's when you're just feeling emotionally or physically off, that is a big indication that there may be something that needs to be released or is going on. So yeah, it's about being in tune with your body and really just listening to how you're feeling or what your body is trying to tell you.
Yeah.
But the intention itself is definitely enough. Some people do feel more empowered when they're using things such as crystals, or mantras, chanting, meditation, Archangel Michael, calling on the archangels, and that's perfectly fine. You definitely, it's great to be able to have that connection to these energies or these tools, but it is really important for people to know that you yourself are enough. Otherwise people can be like, I left my crystals at home and I'm not protected today, and so the intention is definitely enough, but just using those extra things definitely ramps things up when it comes to protection and clearing and cleansing, and yeah, it really comes down to personal choice, but intention is definitely enough.
I love that though, because you are enough and you don't want to be kind of stuck somewhere feeling that you need to cleanse and then feeling like you can't do it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yep.
Yeah. So how common is, is the gift of being an empath or being empathic? And do you qualify that as a gift if you had to put a label on it, which, Eckhart's work. So I'm not saying we need to identify with all this stuff, but,
Yeah.
if we had to name it, let's say, is it a
Yes.
gift?
I would say it's definitely a gift. I would definitely class it as a gift, but I feel it comes down to, again, the intention of how you use it. Some empaths would look and go, oh, this is not a gift, this is too much.
Yeah.
I struggle with day-to-day life, or I'm struggling really bad with understanding why I pick up pains, or why I am so emotional all the time. And this is why I created Empath School, was for highly sensitive people, so not just empaths, but highly sensitive people and empaths, to educate and have them have a safe place to learn about themselves and to
Mhm.
grow and learn how to protect and do all of these things.
Yeah.
Not everyone is an empath, as we said before, but it is something that as you grow spiritually, you may start to find that you do start to resonate with the different aspects of being an empath.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And I think that, like you're kind of talking about, whether or not you're in tuned or not, it's probably still a great idea for you to cleanse and
Mm.
take a lot of the things that you've mentioned into account, because everything is energy, regardless of whether or not you have a gift or a label on, some of the things that you can do. And so being aware that, this is a possibility is probably also important, I guess.
Definitely. And with today, there are definitely more empaths today than there probably has ever been. I feel that, things are definitely shifting and changing, and more people are sensitive. We are more
Yeah.
sensitive to one another. We are using our voices. And something that is also definitely coming up is our children. Our children are more sensitive now, and this is why we do parenting courses for parents with empath or sensitive kids. So even if you're not an empath, if you have sensitive children, you can definitely still grow and learn and understand that.
Yes, because when you are able to help your children when they are young, it avoids them from being really screwed up adults.
Yes, definitely,
Yes.
definitely. And just having an understanding that, with children who are sensitive, they may have behavioral issues because they don't understand why they're feeling the way that they are.
Mm,
And sometimes that can be confusing for parents because they may not understand as well that their children are empaths and absorbing the energy of the home or what is going on around them. So it's really great for everyone to, I guess, understand how to, because it's not even just for empaths, how to cleanse and clear and all of that. It's really important for everybody to be able to take care of energetically, who they are.
yeah, I agree with that. So before we get into the empath school, because I'm really interested in speaking with you on that, can we just quickly talk about triggers? Because when you were talking earlier about, how sometimes people feel that, maybe, being an empathic is really difficult. They've got, it's really difficult to kind of balance that. I mean, I know myself, I sometimes have struggled with that, where if I give too much energy, talk to too many people, it burns me out. Or if I read news stories or hear things that are really uncomfortable, or let's say ugly, that it really just sticks to me until I can cleanse that. And I find that sometimes really difficult. So do you kind of recommend that people who have these tendencies that they avoid reading the news, or they avoid hanging out with people that maybe are I don't know, not good for them? For example, substances, like, or at least overindulging. Are these
Yeah.
things to pay attention to?
Oh, definitely. I feel that that's a really big sign of being, an emotional empath, especially, is when you do get distraught watching the news or movies or things like that. You're emotionally connecting to what is happening on the television, and it can be so overwhelming that even if you're the happiest person in the world, it can really just lower your vibration and bring you down to a point of feeling depressed or feeling anxious. And so it is important that you keep things that are of high vibration. So again, energy, we're talking about everything's energy. Energy is a vibration. Keeping things at the highest vibration, reading things that inspire you, and meditating, and just putting in your space things that are going to keep you feeling happy and feeling
Yeah.
love, and all of the high vibration emotions, rather than things that are going to affect you on that negative level. But there's a lot of different triggers that people may find, even our family or our friends or the closest people to us. Some people may hear the term energy vampires. That comes up a lot within our spirituality community, but and that's just where people literally take the energy from you or absorb the energy from you, and that can be an unconscious thing. Some people need more, or they're needing more love or more nurture or more connection, so they will become a little bit more needy or dependent on you as a person to help them, or just your energy and vibration is needed because they needed to pick themselves up. So that can definitely happen
Yes.
too.
Yes, yes. There's a thing called, I don't know if you've heard of this before, Kiandra, but it's called the drama triangle. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
It's worth people Googling at home. I'll put a link to it, but it's basically that, in a drama triangle, there's like different kind of, there's like the instigator. I can't remember all the terms. I was trying to explain the rescuer term at the moment. So I'm kind of botching this whole example, but I will say that sometimes people are really kind of, focus on rescuing everybody. Like you were just talking about there, where, sometimes people rely on you to lift me up. You always make me feel better. I think a really good indication of whether or not a relationship is balanced is, okay, if you always make them feel better, do they also make you feel better? Do you both leave feeling good about, or do you feel drained?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. That's exactly right. And even with, people like that, doing things such as, like an example I like to do when I get to the end of my day, I like to just take those deep breaths and ground myself. And I just ask that any energy that I have put out, or any incoming energy that has come through to me, that I have that energy returns with nothing but love and light. And it's a really good way of actually seeing where your energy is going. You may visually see it's like your phone or social media, television, all your friends, family, and you can see all of these little cords that are plugged into all of these places. So it's really important that you do have that energy return to you with love, and recognize, as you said, if you're doing it every day and there's this one person that your cords just keep going to, and you realize it is draining you, then you can definitely speak to that person, and or pull back if you can, or cleanse your cords. There's different things that you can do to try and balance the energy of that relationship.
Yeah. And I guess a large part of that is being in tune with yourself and making sure that you know that it's safe for you to put those boundaries in place. Because if you don't, you're the one who's going to get sick or, be at a disservice. Chances are the other person won't be feeling that the same way. Although clearly if you're sick, then, there's a whole other thing that goes into that with exchanging of energy.
Yes,
But at the same time,
yes.
some people do like to feed on that.
Definitely. And the key word you said is boundaries.
Yeah.
Empaths, what I have seen for years is boundaries seems to be the hardest thing for empaths. Learning to say no, and knowing that it's okay to respect how you're feeling, or respect that you need a break. As you said, you needed to take 4 years off, even with your spiritual journey, because
Yeah.
that was you respecting your boundaries of needing that personal break, because it can be draining. Even growth and learning can sometimes be draining or overwhelming. So
Yeah.
it's really about, as you said, being self-aware and understanding your boundaries and where they lie.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, on the Facebook Live of Raw Consulting, RAH, I actually do a whole Facebook Live video on ways to say no. So if what Kiandras just said there is connecting with you, I'll put a link to that in the show notes and you can check it out, because it's important. Like you said, I think there's a lot of guilt with saying no, right? People don't want to let people down, but I mean, you need to honor where you're at on your journey, because it's your one beautiful life.
Definitely. And that's exactly right. And then it affects everything. It rolls into one. So if you don't respect your boundaries in one space, you may find it is affecting all other avenues of your life as well. So that's perfectly put.
Yeah. And one thing I will just go back to is I was talking about the drama triangle. It's also called the Cartman triangle. So basically it's saying that there is like a triangle, and then at the top, or, and the different points, you've got persecutor, victim, and rescuer. And basically to keep a drama going, you have to play in one of those roles. And I would assume that a lot of empaths often could play either the victim or even the rescuer role.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was just kind of interesting. So, okay, let's talk about the empath school. So you sort of talked about it at the very beginning, about how you kind of, brought it to fruition, I guess. You felt like there was a need for it. There's clearly a need for it. Tell me about how you started it, and does it live online? Do you have a physical location?
Yeah, so I started off doing spiritual retreats. My husband and I run spiritual retreats in Victoria, and we do a lot of online and in-person workshops, and it just kept growing and growing, the need for support, education, a safe space to connect with like-minded people. And we were doing it through our business, Explore, Dream, Discover, which is where I'll do all of my readings and connect with people there. And I realized that it just needed to have its own space, have its own space where people could connect with mentors, trainers, not just myself or not just my husband, but a range of different skill sets from other empaths or other sensitive people that could educate, teach, and include everyone. So that's how Empath School came about. It's a fairly new platform which is just growing rapidly, which has been amazing. We've been able to connect with just really beautiful people, and already people are just thriving with the knowledge that they're getting. And it is all online at this point, Empath School. And we are in the midst of creating something called the Empath Support Portal, which is a membership where it gives empaths and highly sensitive people all the resources that they could need, articles, meditations, updated every single day, different hypnosis, a live webinars, like literally everything that an empath could need, all in one space. And then obviously you've got your courses as well.
That sounds really great. So what kind of people are going to the school? Is it, empaths themselves? Are they parents with empath, like children as empaths, like you kind of talked about before? Is it people that just wish they were one?
Yeah, no, so far we've connected with a range of different people. We do have a parenting course, so we have parents that may not be empaths themselves, but are very curious around, helping their children. And then we've got a lot of empaths and highly sensitive people that are starting out on their journey. And then we have seasoned psychics that are needing to refresh, certain skills on protection or learning skills that they then can teach their clients or people that they're connecting with. And this is where the ripple effect, I love the ripple effect of we get to help and educate people, and then you will use it and you'll take it and use it with your family, your friends or clients, and then they use it, and it's just this beautiful ripple effect, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I agree. What are some of the benefits you see to people being able to understand about their sensitivities or their tendencies? What are some of the success stories that you've seen of people who've maybe come to you with really, I'm sure you've seen many people with really dark or like just depressed energy, and then to kind of maybe come out the other side after they understood it more?
It's truly magical witnessing, and everyone's different. Like everyone has different things going on, their journeys are different, and it's completely embraced by not just us, but the other students there and the friendships that are made. But people that come through our courses, watching where they start. And again, we always get the intention set at the start of why they're in the course or what they're looking for. And then when they come out that other side, we've seen people go from thinking that they're just parents, having this identity as, I'm overly sensitive and I'm just a mum, or I'm just a dad. There's men in it as well.
Right.
That then come out and go, wow, I am so much more. Yes, I can do both. I can be a mum, but I'm also a psychic, or I'm also able to pursue my career as a nurse, because they've gained this sense of confidence and understanding who they are, but also gaining control of their sensitivities so they can work as a nurse. They're not going to be overwhelmed as much in that space, because they know how to protect, they know how to cut cords, they know how to work out what's theirs and what's not. Like even just these small things things has such a big impact on people once, you know, they gain control of it and understand and embrace who they are. It's been magical really watching the process of people growing and then, you know, looking back and people coming to us, and it's just it's really great.
I never thought about the nurse, like I never thought about that part of it, because I just avoid the news and things like that. And I think sometimes I give the impression that I don't care about world events, where, you know, I do care, but I feel they're out of my control and I take on that stuff a little bit too much. So it's difficult for me, but I never thought about it, about frontline workers and people who are working in these really intense environments who feel called to do that, but at the same time aren't aware of how to stop, you know, from taking on all their work at home. So it's so critical, the kind of stuff that you are doing to create that ripple effect, like you said.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of empaths are called into the role of nurturer or helper, healer, you know, in an industry where they need to give something or contribute or feel they need to give and contribute. So it is imperative of having that self-awareness and exactly what we spoke about earlier, boundaries, you know, knowing that when they need to take a break or need to take time off or things like that.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much, Kiandra. It's been a fabulous conversation. I know I've learned like a lot. I had no idea there were different types of empaths, for example.
Oh,
So
thank
it's
you.
so great. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to bring up? Is there, I know that, you know, we're going to put the links to the Empath School in the show notes so people can keep up with you online. But feel free if there's anything that you wanted to say that I didn't mention or give you a chance to say.
I feel like we got a lot covered. I feel like I could speak for hours and hours on end about different topics. But no, I just feel really blessed to be able to be a part of this. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, my friend. And we would love to have you back anytime you want to talk about other stuff. So thank you so much.
I would love to. Thank you so much.
Hi. Thanks so much for listening to the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave us a review where you listen to your podcast and share it with your friends. Thank you. New episodes every Thursday.